So I'm asking you a question. Who or what is your change manager? Who or what is your change manager? That might sound like a strange question. But we live in an era in this 21st century where there's a lot of talk about change and transformation. I mean, it's not just at the personal level, it's at the political level, it's at the organizational level, it's at the level of society, where we talk about the need for change and how we see family and how we see each other. You know, we live with people, we interface with people daily, and we are constantly hearing the social scientists and the sociologists and the psychologists and the doctors and the pastors and political leaders saying basically all the same thing. We need to learn how to get along with each other. We need to learn how to be able to resolve conflict without getting into a fight or getting violent. And we need to treat each other with respect. We need to treat people the way we want to be treated. So we're hearing a lot about the need for change and transformation in terms of how we see our nation, in terms of how we see how we fit into the world and how we should allow the world to impact us while at the same time impacting the world. We must always have that awareness of a need to evolve. And as a Caribbean black woman, I understand the need for us to always evolve and change. And that's at the personal level. And at the organizational level, we recognize the need to evolve and change as well, because we live in a different world. I think that's where I got into that discussion, because we're in a globalized environment, but we want to be global citizens, but yet we want to preserve our Caribbean identity or our Barbadian identity. So we don't want to become lost in the digital space or in the global space where we lose who we are. So all of that is really about change and evolution in terms of how we see ourselves. Our faith and who we believe God is and who God can be in our lives. Some of us, many of us were raised in church, but our Christianity was couched in a lot of rigidity, a list of do's and don'ts, and a lot of fear. And we almost saw God as a big bad God and somebody who was always angry with us and distant. And we have had to walk the walk of evolution in terms of understanding yet that yes, God is a righteous God and He does stand for righteousness. He does not like sin, but He's also so loving and supportive, not of our sin, not of our decadence, not of our failing, but supportive of us in our imperfection, because we can never be perfect. We can never be good enough for God. The Bible says it. Our righteousness is like filthy rags. So you can't be good enough for God. You can't do enough good works for God. Your relationship with God is not based on what you do, but on who you become because of His grace and because of His love, because of His compassion towards us. And that in itself is an evolution that many of us who've been raised in traditional evangelical churches had to walk in terms of understanding who God is and who He desires to be in our lives. But at the organizational level, at the systemic institutional level, at the political level, we all recognize the need for change, the need for development. But who really is managing that change? And that's the question I asked. That's the topic of this particular episode. And as I began by saying, I've been exposed to change management in organizations, and I know that there's a lot that is done, a lot of workshops, a lot of conferences, a lot of papers, a lot of sessions with groups within the organization to try to understand where people are at, why they resist change, what they're afraid of, assuring people that their needs will always be met no matter the organization is changing or the structures are changing. They're not going to be forgotten, they're not going to be left behind. These are the areas that we will try to make life better for you in this work environment. Never mind this is changing or that is changing, or the name has changed or the manager has changed, or we're developing a different philosophy. These are the things that we won't change, and you will always be remembered, and you will always be. We get a lot of that, and there's structures that are put in place to manage change processes. But I have been around long enough to see with my own eyes that even though we try so hard to put processes and systems, and we talk a lot of nice sounding talk to make people feel that even though there's change, we're going to hold on to the things that are of value, and we are going to look after you as a member of this organization or of a member of this institution or as a member of this nation, we're going to ensure that your needs are continuously met. We know that change is often regarded by suspicion, by those to whom the change is being preached. And very often, people lose trust and lose faith in those who are spouting the ideas of change. And even though a lot of good is done to help foster change in groups or in organizations, in churches, in workplaces, in countries, we know that very often that change does not materialize across the board because it is hard for people to change. A building or a structure is not the organization. The organization is the people. And if you really want change to happen in any organization or in any institution, you have to change the people. So change is not just some abstract institutional or organizational construct. It boils down to the hearts of individuals changing so that their behavior will change. And a lot of us start the year with lots of good resolutions. We write them down, we tick them off. We have a to-do list, the things that we want to focus on in the first quarter or the second quarter, the third quarter. Some might do it by month, some might do it monthly, by week, or we just have very broad goals and dreams, as I said at the beginning, that we want to see fulfilled and we want to see changed. But then when the rubber meets the road, as we live life and life happens, we recognize that a lot of those things that we set out to do don't happen. And sometimes it is because our mindset has not changed, our thinking has not changed, our feelings about our ability to do certain things have not really changed, even though we have noted the things that we want to change. And the same thing happens in organizations, that happens with the individual. And what happens in organizations happens because it happens with the individuals. So when I ask you who is managing change, your change, an organization may have a change manager, somebody who's very well skilled, who've studied, who's an expert in the field. And even they, as change managers, have a lot of problems, have a lot of challenges seeing change actualized in organizations. So when it comes to us as individuals, are we the ones managing our own change? And is that why we keep failing? Because we are stuck. And if we're stuck, it's going to be very difficult to see the change that we want to see in our own lives.